William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this video I'd like to walk students through the first lesson in the Academy's Classical Grammar course. This Classical Grammar course is not to be confused with our Latin and Greek grammar courses. In those courses we study the grammar of the classical languages, but in the Classical Grammar course in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, what we study is English grammar, but we study it in a way that supports future studies in Classical Latin and Greek, and that's why we call it Classical Grammar. Sometimes students get started in Latin or Greek and they just don't have enough knowledge in their own native language, English for example, to really comprehend the ideas that we study in Latin and Greek grammar. And so this Classical Grammar course is helpful for younger students who are just getting started, who want to study the grammar of the English language, but in a way that helps them to also study Latin and Greek. So that's the purpose of this Classical Grammar course. In this first lesson, we have a very simple topic, just the alphabet, the English alphabet, which most students studying this course already know. We just want to make sure we look at the alphabet as we should think about it from the perspective of classical language studies. So we understand and think about the letters and sounds and syllables and words rightly as we get started in the study of grammar. To begin, and let me just say, the text for this lesson is provided on the Academy website. I recommend you read along as we go through the lesson, so if you don't have that text in front of you, pause the video, go to the study center, click on the link for the lesson text, and when you're ready to follow along, then come back to the video and pick up where you left off. So you might want to pause it here and go find that text. To get started in lesson 1, we're going to begin with the very first rule, and we read, the English language has 26 letters. And I will assume that almost every student working in this course knows the alphabet. So the English language has 26 letters. You might not think that's a big deal, but Classical Greek has 24 letters, Classical Latin has 23 letters, English has 26 letters. So as you study the English alphabet, you should ask the question, why are there more letters? What letters are there in English that aren't in Latin or Greek? Now that'll help you to appreciate what separates English from Latin, for example, which is important because the letters, the figures of the letters in English and Latin are the same. So it's important to know what the differences are and why those differences exist. But there are 26 letters in the English language. Of those 26 letters in English, of those 26 letters, 5 of them are vowels. 5 of them are called vowels. Those 26 letters divide into 2 different categories, 2 different classes, vowels and consonants. The first category are vowels, and there are 5 English vowels. Now this is a little bit confusing compared to classical studies. Classical studies are much simpler than English because in English, I should say, we mix together a bunch of different languages to form a modern language that's very complicated, and it can be very confusing. Just because English is your native language doesn't necessarily mean that it's an easier language to learn. In fact, I would argue that it's much more difficult to learn English than Latin or Greek. When we talk about the letters, we're talking about written characters. And it's important to think of them as written characters because in English, one written letter can represent a number of different sounds. In classical languages, that's not true. In classical languages, the letter and its sound are not, you can't separate them. One letter always represents the same sound. The letter and the sound are always one. In English, that's not the case. In English, one letter can represent 3, 4, 5 different sounds, and the same sound can be represented by a number of different letters. So it's very confusing. And so when we talk about letters in English, it's important to make it clear that we're talking about the written characters as letters. It's not like classical languages. So there are 5 letters which we call vowels. We call them vowels because they represent vocal sounds. Vocal sounds, that is, sounds that are made with a voice alone. Sounds that are made with a voice alone. So if you just open your mouth like you're going to sing and make the vocal sound, ah, that vocal sound is used to make the 5 different vowels. And we change the sound of the vowels by changing what are called the organs of speech, the different parts of our mouths that allow us to make different sounds. So if I just open my mouth wide and make the vocal sound, I make ah. If I close my mouth, tighten my mouth, I make the sound e, e. If I round my lips, I make the sound oo, oo. And so by changing the position of my vocal organs, I can make different sounds, but they're all vocal sounds. They're simple vocal sounds, and we call these vocal sounds vowels or vocals. In English, there are 5 vocal sounds, 5 vowels, and the names of these letters are A, E, I, O, and U. A, E, I, O, and U. These are the 5 vowels in English. Now, normally, and again, this is very confusing in English because this doesn't always happen. One of the dangers in your studies as a child is that teachers will oversimplify things to try to make rules, and those rules aren't true. We're not going to do that in classical grammar. I'm telling you up front that the English language is very confusing, very complicated. Just because it's your native language doesn't mean it's easy. Normally, when we have a vowel in a word, it makes one syllable. So if I take a word like banana, and we look at the word and we see that there are 3 vowels in the word, 3 A's, we'll see that each vowel marks a different syllable. Ba, na, na. It's even funny because in that word, the letter A represents 3 different sounds. Ba, na, na, or 2 different sounds. But we see that there's 1 vowel per syllable. That's normal in language, but not always normal in English. But usually and normally, there will be 1 syllable for every vowel. And ba, na, na is a good example, okay? We can also think of the word America. America, A-M-E-R-I-C-A. 4 vowels. And we have 4 syllables. A, me, ri, ka. 1 syllable for every vowel. That's normal in language, okay? In the next rule, we read 2 vowels coming together form a diphthong. 2 vowels coming together form a diphthong. What that means is when we have 2 vowels together, but they only make 1 syllable, 2 vowels in 1 syllable, we call those 2 vowels together a diphthong. 2 vowels in 1 syllable are called a diphthong, okay? 2 vowels coming together form a diphthong when the 2 sounds are blended into one, so that neither of them is quite lost. In other words, they're blended together to make 1 sound in 1 syllable, but we can hear the sound of both of those vowels in that one joined sound. Then we read, the only proper diphthongs in our language are EU, OI, and OU. And again, this is very confusing. We can think of different words that have the two vowels E and U, and they're not proper diphthongs. For example, we can think of the word feud, feud, F-E-U-D, feud. In that word, we can hear the sound of both vowels. We hear the EU, EU, feud. That's a diphthong. But in another word, like the name of the Bible book Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy, we have EU together in one syllable, but both sounds are not heard. That's really not a diphthong. That's called a digraph because it's one sound signified by two letters. That's something different. That's why our rule here says that there are only a few proper or true diphthongs in English. EU. The second one is OI. And so if we think of the word coin, coin, it's a one-syllable word, even though there are two vowels. So we know that those two vowels make a diphthong. And when we listen to that word, we can hear the sound of the O and the I joined together. Coin, oi, oi, coin. That's a diphthong. And then lastly, OU. In OU, we think of the word house, H-O-U-S-E. Look at that word, house, H-O-U-S-E. Three vowels in that word, only one syllable. That's how strange English is. Classical languages are not like that. But anyway, the O and the U form a diphthong, and we hear the sounds of both of those vowels, the A of the letter O, the short O, and the U of the letter U. House, house. Two vowels in one syllable. The rule then goes on to say, but two vowels are often used to mark a simple sound. That's called a digraph, where we have two written letters that represent one simple sound. So a diphthong, to clarify this, a diphthong, two vowels where two sounds are blended together into one, but both of the sounds of those two vowels can still be heard. That's a diphthong. Two sounds in one is a diphthong. A digraph is a pair of vowels that are simply used together to signify one sound. That's called a digraph. That's not a diphthong in English. In other languages, in Latin and Greek, that doesn't even exist. But in English, English is confusing. Sometimes letters are written and they don't even signify a sound. Like in the word house, the final E is called a silent E. What can be more ridiculous than a silent letter? That makes no sense. Imagine if I drew a picture of a house, and in the middle of the house, I drew something like a ball, and I told someone, that ball doesn't actually represent anything, just ignore it. That wouldn't make any sense. But in English, we use silent letters, and we use them all the time, as we'll see in our studies. So, as I said, remember, English is a complicated, confusing language that takes time and experience to master. We want to learn the rules because they're generally true, but we don't want to oversimplify the language and make up fake school rules that don't work and actually lead students to more confusion because they think that they must not understand when the rules don't work. We can't make rules when the language is complicated and confusing. So let's not oversimplify the language. Let's just realize that English is a complicated language that takes time and experience to master. So make sure you understand what a diphthong is, and also make sure you understand what a digraph is and what the differences are between diphthongs and digraphs. The next rule says, those letters which cannot be sounded by themselves are called consonants. Those letters which cannot be sounded by themselves are called consonants. So we have vowels, which are letters that can be sounded by themselves because they're simple vocal sounds. But then we also have consonants, which are letters that cannot be sounded by themselves. For example, the letter B cannot exist in a word by itself. It has to be joined to a vowel in order to be articulated. Even if I asked you, what sound does the letter B make? You wouldn't be able to answer me unless you joined the letter B to some vowel. You would say, the letter B makes the sound B, B. Well, no, that's not true. You're adding the sound to the consonant. The truth is the letter B by itself cannot make any sound. It can only make a sound when it's joined to a vowel. So consonants are letters that cannot be sounded by themselves. Any letter that is not a vowel is a consonant. So there are two classes of letters in English, or in all languages. There are two classes of letters: vowels, which can make a sound by themselves, and consonants, which must be joined together with a vowel to make a sound. That's what the word consonant means. It means sounding together with, because consonants must be spoken together with vowels. That's what consonant means. Okay? Next, the letter Y in English, the letter Y is a consonant when it stands at the beginning of a word or syllable. So the letter Y can be a consonant in some syllables and a vowel in other syllables. The letter Y can be a consonant or a vowel. When it stands at the beginning of a syllable or at the beginning of a word, it's a consonant. Two good examples would be the word yes. Yes. In the word yes, the letter Y acts like a consonant. In the word yellow, the letter Y also acts like a consonant. When the letter Y stands at the beginning of a word or a syllable, it acts as a consonant, and we consider it to be a consonant. But the letter Y is a vowel in other positions. In other positions in a word or a syllable, the letter Y will be treated like a vowel. For example, if I say the word my, the first letter is M, a consonant. Consonants can only be sounded with vowels, therefore the letter Y must be a vowel. So in the word my, the letter Y is a vowel. And so we have a simple rule for the letter Y. When Y comes at the beginning of a syllable or word, it's treated like a consonant. But when Y comes in the middle or end of a syllable, then it's treated like a vowel. So the letter Y can be a consonant or a vowel in different words. Next, the letter W. W, after a vowel in the same syllable, is also a mere vowel. So the letter W can also be a consonant in some words and a vowel in other words. For example, if I use the word well, like the water comes from the well, in both of those words, water and well, W comes at the beginning of a syllable and it's treated like a consonant. But if I think of the word now, N-O-W, there we see this rule. W after a vowel in the same syllable is also a mere vowel. So because W follows O in one syllable, in one word, the W is treated like a vowel. So W and Y can be consonants in some words and vowels in other words. The next rule says vowels pronounced by themselves or with consonants form syllables. Syllables. And the word syllable means sounds that are spoken together. So when we combine sounds and we express a combination of sounds, we make a syllable. Vowels pronounced by themselves or with consonants make syllables. Vowels can make syllables by themselves, but consonants have to be joined to vowels to make syllables. But every expression of speech is called a syllable. Syllable. Syllables by themselves or with other syllables form words. Syllables by themselves or with other syllables form words. So syllables are made out of letters and words are made out of syllables. Syllables are made out of letters and words are made out of syllables. The real difference between a word and a syllable is that a syllable has no meaning. A syllable has no meaning. A word has meaning. Some words are just one syllable. In fact, many words are just one syllable, but they have a meaning. For example, the word off, off, that's one syllable, but it's a syllable that has meaning, and therefore it's a word. But there are some other syllables that by themselves do not have a meaning. Like in the word water, the syllable wa has no meaning. The syllable ter has no meaning. They're just syllables. Water put together make a word that has a meaning. Sometimes one syllable can have a meaning and be a word. Sometimes the syllables have no meaning and they're not words unless they're joined to other syllables that together make a word with meaning. So syllables are made out of letters, words are made out of syllables. Words, and this is important, and this is where we begin to get into the ideas of classical grammar. Okay, listen to this carefully. Words are used as signs of ideas. Words that we speak, words are used as signs of ideas. We can't share our ideas. If I stand here quiet, what am I thinking? We can't share ideas. We use signs of ideas. We create words that are signs of ideas that we can share through speech. Words are signs of ideas. Our words allow us to share ideas. Words are used as signs of ideas or conceptions. Words are put together to form sentences. Words are put together to form sentences which express thoughts, opinions, and the like. By opinions, we mean judgments. Judgments are called propositions. So, to back up a little bit, if I hold up an object like this Bible, okay, you can see this object. It's sensible. You can see it using your senses. You can touch it. You can hear it. If I shake it around maybe or flip the pages, you can smell it. You could taste it if you wanted to. but this is a sensible object. We can perceive it with our senses. But our minds are like cameras, and our minds create images of things that we've sensed. For example, you can close your eyes and think about the Bible that I just showed you. And in your mind, you can have an image of the object that I showed you. That image in your mind is an idea. That's how our mind works. Our senses gather information, and our mind is like a computer that stores that information, that stores those images in our minds. And our minds are filled with these images. And other people have the same images in their minds, the same images. But if I want to communicate with you about an image that's in my mind, I have to use words. And it's difficult because the word that I use might signify an idea in my mind, but that idea may not be in your mind. And so when I speak a word, it may be a sign of a different idea in your mind. And that's why we have dictionaries. That's why we have to define words, to make sure we both understand what the word means when I speak it. But we use words to signify ideas, and ideas are themselves signs of objects outside of our minds. All right, so ideas are signs of objects. Words are signs of ideas. Words are put together to form sentences expressing thoughts, opinions, and the like. We're going to learn in reasoning, if you study reasoning with me, we're going to learn that ideas are not true or false. If I just say a word and name an idea, like if I say book, sun, cloud, running, those words cannot be true or false. But if I start combining words together, combining ideas, then all of a sudden the statements or the propositions that I make can be true or false. If I say the dog is running, and I combine dog and running, I combine them to make a proposition and say the dog is running, and you look and see that the dog is sleeping, you can say that is false. It is false to say that the dog is running. The dog is sleeping. That's true. So ideas by themselves cannot be true or false. But when we make judgments, when we make propositions, then speech becomes true or false. Words are put together to form sentences expressing thoughts, opinions, and the like. So that's all for this first lesson. You can see that there's a lot of content in there. Like I said, I expect that anyone studying this course already knows the letters of the English alphabet. But there are important points to be noted and learned as we study these lessons. Don't take it for granted that because the title of this lesson might be the alphabet, that it's baby work. It's not necessarily baby work. There are some important things to learn. First of all, the number of letters in English is different from the number of letters in Latin and Greek. That's important. Did you know that? Maybe not. If you didn't know that, then the next question needs to be, what letters are different? Why are they different? Why are those letters not in the Latin language? Those are good questions to ask. We learned that the letters divide into two different classes. And that's pretty simple. You may have already known that there are 5 vowels in English, A, E, I, O, and U. But did you know that the letter Y can be a vowel or a consonant? Did you know that the letter W can be a vowel or a consonant? Maybe not. It's important to know. Did you know what a diphthong is? Maybe not. It's important to know. Did you know what a digraph is? Maybe not. It's important. Still quite a bit to study in this lesson, and make sure you go through it and study for mastery, even though the topic is simple. The topic is the alphabet. There's still a lot to learn, and make sure you understand. And then as we got to that last rule, we get into the real important stuff. Vowels pronounced by themselves form syllables, or with consonants form syllables. So syllables are made of letters. And syllables form words. Words are made of syllables. We learned words are used as signs of ideas. That's important. And we have to ask the question, what are ideas? And I explained that ideas are signs of objects. Words are signs of ideas. And words put together so as to form sentences express thoughts, opinions, judgments, and so on. And those things are very important. It's also worth noting, just before we finish, it's also worth noting that there are two kinds of words. There are spoken words, which are the actual signs of ideas. Spoken words are the signs of ideas. But there are also written words. And written words are not the signs of ideas. Written words are the signs of spoken words. Spoken words are the signs of ideas. Written words are the signs of spoken words. Okay, so make sure you think about that. Go back through this lesson. I've provided you with a quick overview of the lesson and some helpful explanations, but I want you to go back, study the printed lesson for mastery. If you don't know what that means, go on the website and search for the article, How to Study for Mastery. How to Study for Mastery. Or you can just Google William C. Michael, How to Study for Mastery, or Classical Liberal Arts Academy, How to Study for Mastery. Find that article and study that article to learn how to study for mastery, and study this lesson for mastery. Okay? All the text, just about everything that I've explained, maybe even a little bit more, is included in the text lesson. So watch this video. I hope it's a helpful guide for you to walk through this lesson and then study the text lesson for mastery. So that's all for our first lesson in classical grammar. Make sure you understand what classical grammar refers to. It doesn't mean that we're studying Latin or Greek. We're studying English in a way that will help you with the study of the classical languages. So that's all for lesson 1. Now it's time for you to study this lesson for mastery. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to go into more detail or explain anything that you don't think is clear. Just get in touch. I hope that's helpful. God bless your studies.